I secretly learned Italian to surprise my boyfriend's family and uncovered their greed. So I exposed embezzlement, alerted customs, and took revenge. When I started dating Enzo 2 years ago, his huge Italian-American family was like stepping into a warm hug. Every Sunday, his mom would grab my face with both hands and kiss my cheeks, calling me Bella, like I was her own daughter. His sisters would gossip with me about their work drama. His dad would pat my shoulder and tell me I was too skinny, then pile more food on my plate. They were everything my family wasn't. See, I inherited my dad's tech company at 22. Yeah, I know, poor little rich girl, right? But while it turned into this massive success, I was drowning in loneliness. My parents only called when they needed something. My siblings saw dollar signs when they looked at me, but Enzo's family seemed to love me for me. When they'd slip into Italian during dinner, I'd just smile along. They always looked so happy when they spoke it, and they'd glance at me with such warm eyes. I started bringing gifts because I wanted to contribute. $300 bottles of wine, designer scarves for his mother. When his sister mentioned student loans over dinner, I paid them off quietly. She cried when she found out and hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. That felt like family. The requests started gradually. Their fridge broke, so I bought them a new one. The dishwasher needed repairs, so I handled it. Enzo's cousin needed a job, so I created one at my company. Every Sunday there was a new crisis, and I threw money at it, because that's what family does, right? I even hired Enzo despite his thin resume because I wanted to build a future together. Then last year, everything went sideways. My company faced a hostile takeover, and I was killing myself with 18-hour days trying to save it. I asked Enzo if I could skip a few Sunday dinners just until the crisis passed. The look on his face gutted me. "Family is everything to us," he said. "Money isn't more important than family." His mom texted me later, saying she understood business comes first for Americans with a sad face emoji. The guilt was suffocating, so I compromised. I'd show up to dinner with my laptop and phone, taking calls between courses. They'd speak more Italian those nights, but I was too exhausted to care. I started learning Italian on red-eye flights as a surprise. I wanted to prove I wasn't just some American girl playing at family. I wanted to belong. Then, Enzo's mother needed surgery. $50,000 for experimental treatment. I wrote the check immediately. But then one day, I tried to leave the family meeting early for an emergency board meeting. Enzo lost it. "My mother could die, and you're worried about money?" he screamed. I stayed. I always stayed. 2 years of new cars in their driveway, designer clothes, Enzo's brother becoming a VP at my company despite being completely unqualified. Enzo used the company card for personal expenses that I covered. I even gave the family some startup money for their business venture of making knockoff designer bags. I was burning out trying to be everything to everyone. But they were family. Family sacrifices for each other. Then I closed the biggest deal of my career. I was euphoric, racing to Sunday dinner. It was the first one I could make in over a month. I'd been studying Italian for months and planned to surprise them. I was planning to book the entire family a luxury Christmas vacation to Italy. I wanted to give them everything. I walked in glowing, ready to share my news and finally speak their language. They were mid-conversation in Italian, and for the first time, I understood every single word. "The stupid cow just gave me another $50,000, his mother was saying. "There was never any surgery." His sister laughed. "I can't believe she fell for it. Rich Americans are so gullible." My legs went numb. His father asked, "How much longer must Enzo pretend with this pathetic girl?" "Just until the wedding," Enzo said. "Then I get half her company in the divorce. Julia understands the plan." "Julia? Who the hell was Julia?" They switched to English seamlessly. His mother grabbed my face and kissed my cheeks, asking about work. "Bella," she called me. While in Italian, they just called me a walking wallet. I sat through that entire dinner, drowning in their cruelty. Every warm memory recontextualized. Every kind gesture a performance. Every "I love you" a lie. $800,000 I'd given to people who saw me as a mark. That night, I found Julia on social media. She was Enzo's business partner. But you know what happened then? The tears stopped. I wasn't a weak person. I just forgot that for a while. Short update, I kept going to dinners, kept smiling, had lawyers quietly prepare documents, and gathered evidence of Enzo's theft. Last night at Thanksgiving, I announced their Christmas gift, the Italy vacation I'd planned. I showed them the tickets, the villa, everything. They nearly exploded with excitement. The vacation will be everything I promised them, but it'll also be everything they deserve. Because in Italy, surrounded by extended family and witnesses, I'll finally speak their language, and they'll learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. The next morning, I woke up with a plan crystallizing in my mind. I had 6 weeks until Christmas to prepare everything perfectly. First order of business was confirming the villa rental in Tuscany. I called my real estate agent in Milan and told her I wanted to purchase the property outright instead of just renting it. The seller was thrilled to close before the holidays. I spent the next few days at the office reviewing security footage and financial records. My CFO helped me compile evidence of every fraudulent transaction Enzo had made. The corporate credit card charges alone totaled over $200,000. Dinners at 5-star restaurants charged as client meetings when the receipts showed tables for 2. Luxury watches and designer clothes written off as business expenses, even weekend trips with timestamps showing he was nowhere near any of our offices. My lawyers worked overtime preparing the documentation. We froze the accounts Enzo had access to without alerting him. I had his system permissions quietly revoked but kept his login active so he wouldn't notice. Every email he sent, every file he accessed, everything was being monitored and logged. The hardest part was maintaining the facade at Sunday dinners. I'd arrive with my usual wine and gifts, letting them speak Italian around me while I pretended not to understand. His mother would complain about her arthritis, and I'd offer to pay for treatments. His father would mention needing new equipment for the family business, and I'd promise to look into it. All while they called me idiota and vacca stupida when they thought I couldn't understand. 3 weeks before Christmas, I visited their knockoff handbag operation. It was in a warehouse on the outskirts of town, rows of sewing machines and boxes of fake designer labels. They were so proud showing me around, explaining how they could recreate any luxury brand perfectly. The quality was actually impressive, which made what I was planning even sweeter. "You should bring these to Italy," I suggested casually. "I know some boutique owners in Milan who might be interested in buying inventory. It could be a great opportunity to expand internationally." Their eyes lit up with greed. Enzo's father immediately started calculating how many bags they could fit in their luggage. His mother was already picking out which designs would sell best to wealthy Europeans. I encouraged them to bring as many as possible, even offering to pay for extra baggage fees. 2 weeks before the trip, I hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Giulia. It turns out she and Enzo had been together since college. She lived in a condo he'd bought with money embezzled from my company. They had joint bank accounts and were planning a spring wedding after our divorce was finalized. The investigator got photos of them together at restaurants, kissing outside her building, even shopping for rings. I started recording every Sunday dinner conversation. My phone, hidden in my purse, captured hours of them discussing their plans in Italian. How Enzo would propose to me on New Year's Eve to lock down the marriage quickly. How they'd already consulted divorce lawyers about the best way to claim half my assets. How Giulia was decorating their future home with money they expected from the settlement. The week before Christmas, I met with Italian authorities through my lawyer's connections. I explained the situation with the counterfeit goods and provided documentation about the fake handbags they'd be bringing into the country. The officials were very interested, especially when I mentioned the volume they planned to transport. Counterfeiting luxury brands was taken seriously in Italy, and bringing them across international borders made it even worse. I also finalized the purchase of the villa and hired a property management company to handle the eviction process. They assured me everything would be ready for December 2006, the day after Christmas. The local police would arrive at 8 in the morning to escort everyone off the property for trespassing. At the final Sunday dinner before our trip, I watched them pack fake Gucci, Prada, and Louis Vuitton bags into suitcases. They were giddy with anticipation, speaking rapidly in Italian about how much money they'd make. Enzo's sister was already planning what she'd buy with her share. His brother talked about quitting his job at my company once the bag sales came through. "Are you sure your friends will want this many?" Enzo's mother asked in English, gesturing at the mountain of counterfeit merchandise. "Absolutely," I assured her. "Italian boutiques love getting inventory at wholesale prices. Just make sure to pack them carefully so customs doesn't damage anything." They exchanged knowing looks, probably thinking how stupid I was for helping them expand their illegal operation. If only they knew I'd already reported the exact flight details and passenger names to Italian customs officials. The night before our flight, I did a final review of everything. The villa purchase documents were confirmed, the eviction notice was prepared. The fraud evidence was organized chronologically. The recordings were backed up in multiple locations. My resignation letter for Enzo was drafted, effective immediately. The company's new security protocols were ready to implement. My Italian had improved enough that I could deliver my planned speech fluently. I barely slept that night, adrenaline coursing through my veins. This wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about justice, about showing them that kindness wasn't weakness, that generosity wasn't stupidity, that being wealthy didn't make me an easy mark. The next morning, we met at the airport. 3 generations of Enzo's family with enough luggage to stock a small boutique. They were buzzing with excitement, taking selfies and posting about their Italian Christmas vacation. Enzo kept his arm around me, playing the devoted boyfriend perfectly. His mother fussed over me, making sure I had my passport and boarding pass. Such a convincing performance. As we waited at the gate, I listened to them chatter in Italian about their plans. They wanted to hit the ground running, setting up meetings with potential buyers immediately. Enzo's father had even researched Italian tax laws to see how they could avoid declaring the income. They discussed which family members would handle which brands, dividing up the territory like crime bosses. "Bella, you look tired," Enzo's mother said in English, patting my cheek. "You work too hard. This vacation will be good for you." I smiled warmly. I've been looking forward to it for weeks. This trip is going to change everything. She had no idea how true that was. As we boarded the plane, I felt a strange sense of calm. The next few days would be chaos, but I was ready. They taught me that family was everything. They were about to learn that betraying family came with consequences. The flight was long, but I spent it reviewing my notes one final time. In just 2 days, at a massive Christmas dinner with all their extended relatives present, I would finally reveal everything. The thought of their faces when they realized I'd understood every cruel word, when they discovered the legal troubles heading their way, when they learned the villa they thought was a vacation rental was actually my property. It would almost make the past 2 years worth it. As we began our descent into Rome, Enzo squeezed my hand. "Thank you for this," he whispered. "My family loves you so much." I squeezed back, matching his fake sincerity. "I know exactly how much your family loves me, and I can't wait to show them how much I appreciate everything they've done." The seatbelt sign came on, and I stared out at the Italian countryside below. Somewhere down there, a beautiful villa waited, a stage for the performance of a lifetime. They thought they were taking me for one last ride. They had no idea the ride was just beginning. The moment we landed at Rome's Fiumicino airport, the family's energy shifted into overdrive. Enzo's father immediately started directing everyone like a general commanding troops, barking orders in rapid Italian about which bags contained the counterfeit merchandise and which held personal items. His mother clutched her oversized purse protectively, no doubt containing the most expensive fake pieces she planned to sell personally. I watched them navigate customs with practiced ease, splitting up to go through different lines to avoid drawing attention to their massive luggage collection. My heart pounded as we approached the security checkpoint, but I kept my expression neutral, playing the oblivious American girlfriend perfectly. The customs officers barely glanced at our passports, waving us through without inspection. Part of me wondered if the Italian authorities had decided not to act on my tip, but I pushed the doubt aside. Everything else was still in place. The rental van I'd arranged was waiting outside, large enough to accommodate all 15 family members who'd made the trip. Enzo's cousins from New Jersey had joined us, along with his aunt and uncle from Philadelphia. They'd all brought their own collections of fake bags, turning our vacation into what they saw as a lucrative business opportunity. During the 3-hour drive to Tuscany, they spoke exclusively in Italian, discussing distribution strategies and profit margins. Enzo's cousin, Marco, suggested they should charge triple the usual price, since wealthy Europeans wouldn't know the difference. His wife agreed, adding that they should claim the bags were stolen from luxury warehouses, making them seem more authentic. "The stupid American girl really came through," Enzo's mother said, glancing at me as I stared out the window. "Her connections will make us rich." I bit my tongue and continued admiring the countryside, letting them believe I was lost in the scenery. The rolling hills and ancient villages were breathtaking, but my mind was focused on the performance ahead. Every cruel comment they made only strengthened my resolve. The villa appeared like something from a dream, perched on a hillside surrounded by olive groves and vineyards. 3 stories of cream-colored stone with terracotta roof tiles, wraparound terraces, and a sparkling pool overlooking the valley below. The family gasped collectively, their excitement palpable. "This must cost a fortune to rent," Enzo's aunt whispered in Italian. "She's paying for everything," his mother replied smugly. "Stupid girl thinks she's buying our love." They poured out of the van like excited children, claiming bedrooms and exploring every corner of the property. I'd made sure to stock the kitchen with expensive wines and gourmet foods, playing the generous host to perfection. While they settled in, I excused myself to make some business calls, actually confirming final details with my Italian attorney. That evening, they transformed the main dining room into a makeshift showroom. Fake Chanel bags lined the antique sideboard, counterfeit Hermes scarves draped over chairs, rows of Louis Vuitton wallets spread across the dining table like playing cards. They photographed everything, creating catalogs to show potential buyers. "Tomorrow, we start making appointments," Enzo's father announced over dinner. "I've already contacted some people through my connections here." The irony wasn't lost on me that they were eating food I paid for while planning to profit from their illegal enterprise. I raised my glass of Barolo, worth more than most people's monthly salary, and toasted to their success. They clinked glasses enthusiastically, never suspecting that every moment was being recorded by the security cameras I'd had installed during the property purchase. The next morning, Christmas Eve, the extended Italian relatives began arriving. Enzo had contacted his mother's family, who lived scattered throughout Tuscany and Umbria, inviting them to what he described as a celebration of family and an opportunity to meet his wealthy American girlfriend. By noon, over 40 people filled the villa, speaking rapid Italian that they assumed I couldn't understand. I played hostess perfectly, serving expensive Prosecco and arranging elaborate antipasti platters. The relatives eyed me with a mixture of curiosity and calculation, clearly sizing up how much money they might extract from this naive American. Several pulled Enzo aside to discuss business opportunities they needed funding for. "She owns a technology company," I heard him tell his cousin Giuseppe, "worth hundreds of millions, and she's so desperate for family that she'll invest in anything we suggest." They laughed, clapping him on the back and congratulating him on finding such a perfect mark. Meanwhile, his mother showed off the fake bags to the female relatives, taking orders and promising delivery after the holidays. The villa had become a criminal enterprise hub, and they felt completely secure in their deception. That afternoon, while they prepared for the evening's feast, I slipped away to finalize preparations. The property management company confirmed the eviction notice was ready. The local police chief assured me officers would arrive precisely at 8 the next morning. My lawyer had submitted all the fraud documentation to the appropriate authorities. The recorded conversations were edited and loaded onto my laptop, ready to play at the perfect moment. Christmas Eve dinner was an elaborate affair. 3 tables were pushed together to accommodate everyone, laden with traditional Italian dishes that Enzo's mother and aunts had spent all day preparing. The irony that they'd cooked this feast in my kitchen, in my villa, while plotting to rob me blind, wasn't lost on me. I sat at Enzo's right hand, playing the adoring girlfriend, while inside, I counted down the minutes. The wine flowed freely, loosening tongues even further. They stopped bothering to switch to English when addressing me, assuming I was too hammered on expensive Amarone to notice. The conversations became increasingly bold, discussing not just the current schemes, but future plans. "After the wedding, we'll have access to everything," Enzo told his uncle. "The company, the properties, the investment accounts. We'll set up the entire family for generations." "What if she wants a prenuptial agreement?" someone asked. Enzo laughed. "She's too in love to think about that. Besides, I'll propose romantically, maybe here in Italy. She'll be so emotional she won't think about protecting her assets." His mother reached over and pinched my cheek affectionately. "Such a sweet girl," she said in English before turning back to Italian. "Stupid as a sheep, but sweet." I smiled and sipped my wine, mentally rehearsing my speech for tomorrow. They had no idea that the sweet, stupid sheep had fangs. As midnight approached, they opened more bottles of champagne to celebrate Christmas. Toasts were made to family, to success, to the profitable new year ahead. Enzo pulled me close and kissed me as the clock struck 12, whispering "Ti amo" in my ear. The words that should have meant everything now meant nothing, knowing that Julia was probably receiving the same empty promises via text message. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear. I woke early, too anxious to sleep, and prepared for the day ahead. The family slept late, exhausted from the previous night's festivities. I used the quiet morning to do a final check of everything. The recordings were queued up, the documents were organized, the eviction papers were in my bag. In just a few hours, their perfect scam would come crashing down. By afternoon, they were preparing for the main Christmas feast. More relatives arrived, including some local officials Enzo's father had invited to impress with their supposed connections. The fake handbags were discreetly shown to interested parties. Orders were taken. Money changed hands. They were so confident, so secure in their deception that they didn't even try to hide their activities from me. I helped in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and stirring sauces, while Enzo's mother directed operations. She spoke to me in broken English, praising my help, while in Italian, she told her sister how pathetic it was that I was so desperate to please them. She probably never had a real family, the sister responded. These rich Americans, they grow up with nannies and boarding schools. No wonder she's so eager for our approval. If only they knew how right they were, and how much that truth had initially made me vulnerable to their manipulation. But vulnerability wasn't weakness, and they were about to learn the difference. The dining room was transformed into a Christmas wonderland. Candles flickered on every surface, garlands draped the walls, and the table groaned under the weight of countless dishes. The entire extended family gathered, probably 60 people in total, all there to celebrate Christmas and unknowingly witness the downfall of their American cash cow scheme. I stood to make a toast as the antipasti was served, raising my glass of Franciacorta. I want to thank all of you for welcoming me into your family, I began in English, knowing most understood enough to follow. These past 2 years have taught me so much about what family really means. They smiled and nodded, raising their own glasses. Enzo's mother wiped away what might have been a genuine tear, or perhaps she was just that good an actress. Family means trust, I continued. It means honesty. It means protecting each other and building each other up. It means celebrating successes together and supporting each other through failures. Salute, they cheered, drinking deeply. But most importantly, I said, my voice growing stronger, family means never taking advantage of each other's kindness, never mistaking generosity for stupidity, never seeing love as weakness to exploit. The room grew quieter, some picking up on the shift in my tone. Enzo's hand found mine under the table, squeezing in what he probably thought was reassurance, but felt more like a warning. Which is why, I said, switching seamlessly to Italian, I'm so disappointed to learn what you all really think of me. The silence was deafening. Forks stopped moving. Glasses paused midway to lips. Every eye in the room fixed on me with dawning horror. Caso, Enzo's mother whispered, her face draining of color. Oh yes, I continued in perfect Italian, my accent clean and precise from months of intensive practice. I've understood every word for quite some time now. Every insult, every scheme, every plan to drain me dry and discard me like garbage. Enzo jerked his hand away from mine as if burned. You speak Italian, he stammered. Fluently, I confirmed, still in their language. Would you like to hear some of my favorite conversations from the past few months? I pulled out my phone and hit play on the first recording. Enzo's mother's voice filled the room, clear as day. The stupid cow just gave me another 50,000. There was never any surgery. Gasps echoed around the table. Some of the extended family members who hadn't been part of the core scheme looked genuinely shocked. Others tried to maintain innocence, but their guilty expressions betrayed them. That's edited, Enzo's father stammered. You can't prove anything, can I? I pulled out my laptop, connecting it to the villa's sound system. Let's see what else I have. For the next 20 minutes, I played recording after recording, conversations about the fake surgery, the planned divorce, Julia, the embezzlement, the counterfeit bags. Their own voices condemned them, laying out their crimes in excruciating detail. Some relatives tried to leave, but I'd strategically locked the dining room doors, forcing them to face their shame. When the recordings finally ended, the room was tomb silent. Enzo's mother had tears streaming down her face, whether from shame or fury I couldn't tell. His father's hands shook as he reached for his wine glass. Enzo himself looked like he might vomit. His olive complexion turned a sickly gray. Now, I said, returning to English for the benefit of those who might not speak Italian fluently. Let's discuss what happens next. You can't prove those recordings are real, Enzo said desperately. No court would accept them. Perhaps not, I agreed, but they don't need to. You see, I have something much more concrete, like the embezzlement evidence I've already submitted to the authorities. $200,000 in fraudulent charges, Enzo. All documented, all traced back to you. His face went from gray to white. You're lying. Check your company email, I suggested. Oh wait, you can't. I had your access revoked this morning. You'll find your termination letter in your personal inbox, along with notice that you're being investigated for corporate theft. You can't do this, his mother shrieked. We're family. No, I said firmly. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't spend 2 years plotting to destroy someone who loved them. The money you gave us was gifts, his father argued. You can't take back gifts. I'm not taking anything back, I assured him. Consider it an expensive education in human nature. But I am done giving. As of this moment, the bank accounts are frozen, the credit cards are canceled, and any connection to my company is severed. What about our business? Enzo's sister demanded. You invested in our handbag company. Your illegal counterfeit operation? I smiled coldly. Yes, about that. Italian customs has been very interested to learn about the large quantity of fake designer goods you brought into the country. I believe they're particularly concerned about the commercial intent, given the sales you've already made to local residents. The color drained from multiple faces as the implications hit them. Counterfeiting was bad enough, but bringing fake goods across international borders for commercial purposes? That was serious prison time. You set us up, Enzo whispered, the full scope of my revenge finally dawning on him. No, I corrected. You set yourselves up. I just made sure you'd face consequences. Oh, and speaking of consequences, you should know that this villa, the one you've been treating as your personal showroom and criminal headquarters, I own it. What? Multiple voices exclaimed at once. I purchased it 6 weeks ago, I explained, which makes all of you trespassers as of... I checked my watch about 30 seconds ago. Your reservation was for December 24th and 25th only. It's now 5:01 p.m. on December 25th. You're all officially trespassing on private property. This is insane, Enzo's aunt protested. You can't just throw us out on Christmas. I'm not throwing you out, I said reasonably. The police will be doing that. They'll arrive at 8 tomorrow morning to escort everyone off the property. I suggest you pack tonight. Oh, and you might want to hide those counterfeit bags, though I suppose it's too late for that, given that I've already reported exactly what you have and where you're keeping it. The room erupted into chaos. Some family members turned on each other, demanding to know how they'd been dragged into this mess. Others tried to bargain with me, offering apologies and promises of repayment. Enzo's mother alternated between sobbing and screaming curses in Italian that would make a sailor blush. Through it all, I remained calm, sipping my wine and watching the family that had pretended to love me tear itself apart. This was what they really were beneath the warm smiles and affectionate gestures. Criminals, liars, and opportunists who saw kindness as something to exploit. Please, Enzo finally said, his voice broken. I know we hurt you. I know what we did was wrong, but this will destroy our entire family. Your family destroyed itself the moment you decided to target me, I replied. I'm just ensuring you face the consequences of your choices. What about what we had? He asked desperately. Didn't any of it mean anything to you? I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. What we had? You mean the relationship, where you lied to me every single day for 2 years? Where you were planning to marry me just to steal my money in a divorce? Where you already had a fiancé waiting in the wings? Gasps from some of the relatives who apparently hadn't known about Julia. Enzo's mother shot him a furious look, probably more upset about him getting caught than the actual betrayal. Oh yes, I continued. I know all about Julia. The condo you bought her with money stolen from my company. The wedding you're planning for spring. Tell me, were you going to invite me to that one too? The extended family began edging toward the doors, clearly wanting to distance themselves from the unfolding disaster. I unlocked them with a remote, watching as cousins, aunts, and uncles fled like rats from a sinking ship. Only the core family remained, the ones too deeply involved to simply walk away. You've made your point, Enzo's father said, trying to salvage some dignity. We'll leave. We'll pay back what we can. Just please don't involve the police. Too late, I informed him. The reports have been filed. The evidence has been submitted. What happens next is out of my hands. You vindictive witch, his mother spat. We gave you a family. No, I said sadly. You gave me the illusion of family. You gave me lies wrapped in smiles and theft disguised as love. But you also gave me something valuable. You taught me the difference between real love and manipulation. You taught me to value myself more than the approval of others. You taught me that being alone is better than being surrounded by people who see you as nothing more than a wallet with legs. I stood, gathering my laptop and phone. I'll be leaving now. I suggest you spend the evening packing and consulting with lawyers. You'll need good ones. As I walked toward the door, Enzo called out one last time. Was any of it real for you? Did you ever actually care about us? I paused, considering the question. Every moment was real for me. Every gift came from my heart. Every smile was genuine. That's what makes your betrayal so cruel. You took someone who genuinely loved you and turned them into this. I gestured to myself, calm and cold and calculating. Congratulations. You've created exactly what you accused me of being from the start, someone who puts business before family, because you taught me that family is just another word for business to people like you. I left them in the dining room, their Christmas feast growing cold on the table. As I climbed the stairs to pack my own bags, I could hear them arguing, blaming each other, scrambling to figure out how to minimize the damage. The family that had seemed so united in their deception was fracturing under pressure, turning on each other to save themselves. I'd arranged for a car to pick me up at 7, planning to be long gone before the police arrived. There was a lovely hotel in Florence where I'd spend the rest of my Italian vacation, alone, but finally free from the toxic performance of fake family love. As I packed, I found myself thinking about the past 2 years, all the Sunday dinners where I'd felt so welcomed, not knowing they were mocking me in their own language, all the gifts I'd given from genuine generosity, received with fake gratitude, all the moments I'd treasured as proof that I'd finally found belonging, revealed as calculated manipulation. But I wasn't bitter. Not really. They'd given me an expensive education in human nature, and I'd paid tuition in both money and pain. Now I was graduating with honors, walking away with hard-earned wisdom about the difference between genuine connection and performed affection. My phone buzzed with texts from Enzo, alternating between apologies, threats, and pleas. I blocked his number, then did the same for the rest of his family. That chapter of my life was over, ending not with the fairy tale wedding they'd planned to exploit, but with the harsh reality of consequences they'd never expected to face. As my car pulled away from the villa, I took one last look at the beautiful property. Tomorrow, it would be the scene of evictions and arrests, the family's schemes crashing down around them. But tonight, it was just a house on a hill, lit by Christmas lights and filled with the sound of desperate voices trying to salvage their crumbling conspiracy. I'd given them everything they'd asked for, just not in the way they'd expected. A luxury Italian vacation that would end with criminal charges. A Christmas they'd never forget for all the wrong reasons. A demonstration of what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness, generosity for stupidity, love for vulnerability. The driver asked if I was all right, noticing the tears on my cheeks. I assured him I was fine, and I meant it. They weren't tears of sadness or regret. They were tears of relief, of freedom, of finally closing a painful chapter and looking forward to whatever came next. Because despite everything they'd taken from me financially and emotionally, they'd failed to take the most important thing: my capacity to trust, to love, to be generous. Those qualities weren't weaknesses to be cured, but strengths to be protected. I just needed to be more careful about who deserved them. As we drove through the Tuscan countryside toward Florence, I made myself a promise. I would find real family, real connection, real love, people who valued me for more than my bank account, who spoke truth in every language, who gave as freely as they received. They were out there somewhere, and I'd find them. But first, I had a hotel reservation to check into, a bottle of genuine Italian wine to enjoy, and a sunrise to watch over the Arno River. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to build the life I deserved. The family I'd left behind would face their own tomorrows, filled with legal troubles and financial ruin. They'd played a long game and lost everything in the final round, but that was their story now, not mine. Mine was just beginning. The hotel in Florence was everything I needed: quiet, elegant, and completely free of Enzo's family. I spent the evening on my balcony overlooking the Duomo, sipping wine and checking my phone for updates. My Italian lawyer sent confirmation that all documentation had been filed. The property management company texted that they were prepared for tomorrow morning's eviction. Everything was in motion. Around midnight, my phone exploded with messages. Not from Enzo, I'd blocked him, but from numbers I didn't recognize. His cousins, aunts, distant relatives who'd fled the dinner. Some apologized profusely, claiming they had no idea about the scam. Others begged me to reconsider, worried about their own legal exposure. I didn't respond to any of them. The next morning, I woke early and ordered room service. While eating breakfast, I received a call from the property management company. The police had arrived at the villa precisely at 8. The family had barricaded themselves inside, refusing to leave. Enzo's father was shouting about squatters' rights while his mother wailed dramatically. The police were unmoved, especially after finding the counterfeit merchandise exactly where I'd said it would be. By noon, they'd all been removed from the property. The core family, Enzo, his parents, and siblings, were taken to the local police station for questioning about the counterfeit goods. The extended relatives were released but banned from the property. My lawyer called to confirm that Enzo's passport had been flagged. He wouldn't be leaving Italy anytime soon. I spent the day exploring Florence, visiting the Uffizi Gallery, and walking along the Arno. My phone continued buzzing with increasingly desperate messages from unfamiliar numbers. One caught my attention, a voicemail from someone claiming to be Julia. Her voice was shaky, furious. She'd just learned about Enzo's arrest and the frozen accounts. Apparently, he'd been funding their entire relationship with money stolen from my company. The condo, the car, the jewelry, all purchased with embezzled funds. Now she was facing eviction and possible criminal charges as an accessory. She blamed me for ruining her life, conveniently forgetting that she'd knowingly participated in a scheme to destroy mine. That evening, I met with my Italian lawyer at a small trattoria near the Ponte Vecchio. He updated me on the situation. The counterfeit goods charges were serious. The family had brought over 50,000 euros worth of fake merchandise with clear intent to sell. Combined with the evidence of fraud I provided, Enzo was looking at significant jail time. His family is trying to claim you entrapped them, the lawyer said, amused. They say you encouraged them to bring the bags. I smiled. I suggested they bring inventory for potential buyers. I never told them to break international counterfeiting laws. The lawyer also informed me that Enzo's family was scrambling to find legal representation. Their assets in America were frozen due to the fraud investigation, and no Italian lawyer would take their case without a substantial retainer. The same family that had spent 2 years draining my finances was now discovering what it felt like to be truly desperate. Over the next few days, I received updates from various sources. My CFO confirmed that the forensic accountants had uncovered even more embezzlement than we'd initially found. Enzo had been siphoning money through fake vendor accounts for months. The total was approaching $500,000. The private investigator I'd hired sent additional photos of Julia clearing out the condo, her face twisted with rage as she loaded boxes into a rental truck. She'd already started a social media campaign painting herself as the victim, claiming she'd been deceived by both Enzo and me. The comments weren't kind. Apparently, many people knew about her relationship with Enzo while he was publicly dating me. On my 4th day in Florence, I received an unexpected call from Enzo's sister. She was still in Italy, staying with distant relatives after being released by the police. Her voice was different. Gone was the false warmth, replaced by cold calculation. I have information you might want, she said without preamble, about other things Enzo did. Things that could help your case, but I need something in return. I listened as she outlined her proposal. She'd testify against her brother in exchange for immunity from prosecution and a small settlement to start over. She claimed to have evidence of additional fraud, including a scheme where Enzo had been selling proprietary company information to competitors. I'll consider it, I told her, though I had no intention of negotiating with any of them. Send me what you have. Within hours, she'd emailed dozens of documents, screenshots of messages between Enzo and buyers, bank records showing payments to offshore accounts, even recordings of him discussing which company's secrets would fetch the highest price. In her desperation to save herself, she'd handed me everything I needed to bury him completely. I forwarded everything to my legal team and the authorities. The sister called repeatedly over the next day, growing increasingly frantic when I didn't respond. She'd betrayed her own brother for nothing, destroying the last remnants of their family loyalty in a futile attempt to escape consequences. A week into my stay, I decided to visit the villa one last time. The property management company had already begun cleaning and repairs. The fake handbags had been confiscated as evidence, but traces of the family's occupation remained. Empty wine bottles, scattered clothing, the remnants of their Christmas feast still in the refrigerator. I walked through the rooms, remembering how they'd transformed my property into their criminal enterprise, the dining room where they displayed their counterfeit goods, the terrace where they'd plotted their sales strategy, the kitchen where they'd cooked their feast while planning my financial destruction. The property manager showed me the damage they'd caused during the eviction: broken furniture, holes punched in walls, wine stains on antique rugs. Enzo's father had apparently smashed several windows in rage when the police arrived. His mother had tried to barricade herself in the master bedroom, screaming about her rights as a grandmother, though I had no idea what grandchildren had to do with anything. The repair costs will be substantial, the manager said apologetically. Send me the bills, I replied, and document everything for the insurance claim. As I toured the property, my phone rang. It was my CFO with an update. The board had held an emergency meeting and voted unanimously to pursue criminal charges against Enzo. They'd also approved a complete security overhaul and audit of all employees who'd been hired through personal connections. There's more, she said. We found evidence that Enzo's brother has been running a similar scheme. Fake invoices, phantom contractors, inflated expense reports. It's smaller scale, but still significant. I wasn't surprised. The entire family had viewed my company as their personal piggy bank. Now they were learning that stolen money always comes with a price. That evening, I sat on the villa's terrace, watching the sunset over the Tuscan hills. My phone had finally stopped buzzing with desperate messages. The family had either given up or been advised by lawyers to stop contacting me. The silence was peaceful. I thought about the 2 years I'd spent trying to buy their love, Every gift, every check, every gesture of generosity had been met with secret contempt. They'd seen my kindness as stupidity, my loneliness as opportunity, my wealth as their birthright. But in trying to destroy me, they'd created something stronger. I'd learned to value my own worth beyond what I could provide financially. I discovered that real family isn't about blood or marriage or even shared meals. It's about mutual respect, genuine care, and reciprocal love. The next morning, I met with a local real estate agent about the villa. Despite the family's damage, it was still a beautiful property in a prime location. She assured me it would sell quickly, especially to foreign buyers looking for a Tuscan retreat. Though you might want to wait until the news dies down, she suggested delicately. The locals are all talking about what happened. The American woman who exposed the Italian-American crime family. It's quite the scandal. I told her to list it immediately. I had no interest in keeping a property tainted by their presence. Let someone else fill it with genuine laughter and real family gatherings. My lawyer called with more updates. The prosecutor was building a strong case against the entire family. The counterfeit goods, the embezzlement, the fraud. It was all interconnected. Even the relatives who'd claimed innocence were being investigated for money laundering since many had received gifts purchased with stolen funds. Enzo is trying to make a deal, he informed me. He'll plead guilty to lesser charges if you agree to drop the civil suit. No deals, I said firmly. He made his choices. Now he faces the consequences. I spent my last few days in Italy acting like a real tourist. I visited museums, ate at small family restaurants, and took a cooking class in Chianti. Everywhere I went, I heard fragments of gossip about the American woman and the villa scandal. Some painted me as a villain who destroyed a family. Others saw me as a hero who'd exposed criminals. I was neither, just someone who'd finally stood up for herself. On my final morning as I packed for the flight home, I received one last message from an unknown number. The text was in Italian, but I understood every word. You may have won this round, but family is forever. We'll remember what you did to us. I deleted it without responding. They could remember all they wanted from their jail cells and bankruptcy.